Hi, I'm ST Billingsley with Community Conversations for What's Up Woodbridge. Today we have Cathy Alves Davis, author of Myrcles, and she lives in Montclair. Thank you for being with us today.
So nice to see you and be here today.
And what made you write your book?
Well, I have to go to my story that in 1998 I was doing a self-examination of my breasts, and at that time I felt a jagged edge in my breast that it was unfamiliar to me. And I went to my gynecologist for a checkup. I had just had a mammogram 6 months prior, and he said, you know, that just doesn't seem right. We're going to send you to the radiologist and have a sonogram done. So I went to have the sonogram, and when they did the sonogram, they called over to my gynecologist and told him that they found a mass. They thought at that time it was a cyst, not a real mass. But anyway, my gynecologist decided that he was going to send me to the surgeon. I was then sent to the surgeon. The surgeon, as you can tell by my accent, I'm from the Boston area. And when I went to see the surgeon, he and I had a great talk. He had actually been schooled in Boston. So he did a biopsy, and when he did the biopsy, he found it to be very water-filled. And he said, you don't have anything to worry about. This is something that I do need to remove, but you know, we'll take care of that later when the biopsy results come back. You're to give me a call next week for the results. I wasn't one bit concerned. No one discussed anything about cancer with me. But a week later, when I called up to speak to the nurse practitioner, instead, the doctor, the jovial doctor from Boston who had been schooled there, who knew where I lived back in Massachusetts, was somber and saddened when he told me that it was not only breast cancer, it was aggressive stage 3 breast cancer. It was actually the size of a navel orange. It was hidden under a fibroid shelf in my left breast. So it was very, very shocking. I went into complete shock. He told me, not only did he tell me that news, he told me that my very existence was at stake. And just for a very short time, I was very rattled and very, very shocked, naturally, with that kind of news. But very quickly, I went right back to my childhood faith. I was brought up in a small town called Duxbury, Massachusetts. I lived about 3 houses up from the water, and I had a wonderful childhood, a great family, but I had one problem, and that was I was a severe asthmatic. And the asthma was unbelievably difficult. There was no medicine in the 50s, and you just suffered, strangled, coughed, choked, and many children died. So in that time, my complete reliance went on God and Christ. And my mother is actually the one who led God and Jesus to me, because I had no options. There was no one out there that could help me. And when my mother was lost for words, she couldn't help me either. There was no help to come. She would urge me to go to Christ. So when I would fall off in exhausted slumber, Jesus was there waiting for me, his hands open wide, and he would heal me again that night. The next day, I was a child at play once again. But this carried throughout my entire childhood. So that foundation of faith was there waiting for me. I always had a close walk with God. I was always a spiritual person. And that close walk with God was waiting for me in my late 40s when I needed God again to overcome a terrible mountain that I had to cross over. I went to Boston for a second opinion, and while I was there, they felt absolutely that the cancer was so large it had spread to my lungs. And if that were the case, I had 6 months to live. And while I was on the CAT scan table, praying to God, beseeching him, I wanted to raise my children, I wanted to see them graduate from college, I wanted to see them married, I wanted to see all the things we all want to see in this lifetime. And as I was praying, the clock on the wall seemed to stop. The droning of the CAT scan machine at my feet stopped, and my prayer went to the side, and God spoke to me as he had done when I was a child, and he allowed me to know that I would be fine, but one day I would go on to write a book of hope and inspiration. So I was then sent to Georgetown. I told the doctors at Georgetown that this is what would happen to me. Interestingly enough, the only place that had a stage 3 aggressive breast cancer protocol was at Lombardi Cancer Research Center, 45 minutes from my home. God was already ahead of me all the way. So I told all the doctors there that I was going to have a miracle. They patted me, thinking, trying to humor me. This was not really going to happen, but if you want to think that way, great. But within the first 24 hours, my biopsies completely changed. It went from all cancer to almost 50% less cancer. And within a 2 weeks' time, my cancer, that no one could find it was not palpable anymore. And when I had my surgery, they call it a complete clinical response when there is no cancer left. We believers call that a miracle. So when I had surgery, there was no cancer left. I had a complete clinical response to Lombardi Cancer Research Center. But for we believers, we call that a miracle.
So after that, so what actually made you want to write the book, or what kind of challenge did you have in actually putting the book together?
Well, I had never written a book. I had never thought about writing a book. I did not aspire to be a writer. But when God gave me that message, He had given me lots of messages in my life. And so when He gave me that message that day, I knew I was going to do that. And it was another thing of hope. Hope is everything. If we don't have hope, we don't have anything facing any adversity. So when He gave me that message that I was to write that book, I held on tight to that. I knew I was going to get through that cancer. I was going to have a miracle. God was going to give me one. I was going to help thousands and thousands of women by my story, my testimony. And years after I healed, I had kept a log, I had kept notes, and years after I healed, I started the arduous task of writing the book, with never having done that before. But I came across this phrase, I typed and God whispered, because I would literally wake up in the middle of the night and have an epiphany about what I should say. And I would go in and start typing, and the next day I would wake up and I would go and look and see what I had written, and I'd be like, whoa, I wrote that? But it was God working through me, Him wanting to give hope and inspiration to countless other people.
So so tomorrow night, people can actually meet up at a book club that's going to be going on to actually meet you, go over the book, which is something that's not usually normal in a book club.
No. Well, this is my book. This is my beach back home, and which I was very blessed to get this picture from a person that is a photographer for NBC, and I got this picture and they put it on my book. My book is on Amazon. It's getting pages and pages of 5-star reviews, and you don't usually have the author in the midst of a book club, but so many people have enjoyed the book so much, they asked me, why don't you do a book club? So I was very blessed to have 3 lovely friends who said, hey, we'll sponsor it at our homes. So I am having the book club tomorrow evening. It's going to be at a friend of mine, Ricky Guyant. She lives in Brittany. You'll be talking about giving her address when you televise this. But I'm really excited, and there's lots of people going, lots of good food, lots of good conversation, and I'll be there to discuss it and to answer any questions that anyone has. The book is divided into 3 sections, so that's why 3 times the book club will be meeting.
Oh, very
so
good.
Tomorrow evening from 7 to 9, we will be discussing the first section of the book.
And just in case they can't catch it tomorrow night, you'll also be at Arts Alive this coming weekend.
Yes, I'm so blessed. I was asked to be involved in that, and I am a vendor there, and there's going to be lots of authors and people that I think that are doing music, and there's going to be more art projects also there. And we'd love everyone to come out. It's on this Saturday from 12 to 4, and I will have my book there, and I'd love to speak to people about it. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you very much for being on our show today.
Thank you,
and hope to have
so
you back
much.
to go over some other projects that you have coming up in the
Yes.
future also.
Thank you so much,
All
and
right.
I do have more for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
We will definitely have you back there for that.
Thank you, ST.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us for Community Conversations on What's Up Woodbridge.